Greetings, fellow book enthusiasts. Welcome back to Timeless Tales and Thoughts. Today, I kind of want to go through and close out last week's exciting adventures from the Lakeland Book Crawl. And Saturday, I went to another independent bookstore in Winter Haven called The Bookshelf. And both my daughters and I picked up a few other books. So I kind of just wanted to take today and show each book a little bit more in detail, give a little bit on my thoughts of the book crawl and the after party that went with it. So Saturday, the after party for the Lakeland Book Crawl was held at Union Hall. It was a little crowded, but you took your passport, and your completed passport got you this awesome tote bag right here that has all the book crawl locations on it, as well as some raffle tickets. I'm not usually very successful when it comes to raffles, and once again, I was not successful in winning any of the cool raffles that they were giving away. They had some stickers, books, coffee. One shop was giving away a giant parrot, although it seems they couldn't decide if it was a parrot or a macaw. I don't think it really mattered though, but it was huge and it was super awesome. And then the grand prize was a basket full of items from every store. But again, I'm not usually very lucky, and I don't typically win raffles, and this time was no exception. Also, at the after party, it was super cool. They had authors, local authors available that you could talk to and purchase some of their works at the after party. Again, it was really crowded, so didn't really get to speak to anybody. Although we did meet this one author, Sophia Simpson. She writes young adult fantasy. Check out her books at a later time. Right now, we all have a lot in our to be read pile. So she's probably an author that we will look at another time down the road to read some of her books if they sounded interesting, especially if you like some fantasy and magical and elemental surprises. All right, so let's deep dive into some of these books. So my first stop Thursday during the Lakeland Book Crawl was at Bookends. And at Bookends, I ended up picking up two books, actually. First book I picked up was Dan Brown, Angels and Demons. I'm pretty sure I've actually read Angels and Demons before, but since earlier this year, I read his most recent Robert Langdon story, The Secret of Secrets. I've kind of been in the mood to reread some of his earlier works that I remember enjoying so much. I know I read and loved The Da Vinci Code, and I have seen Angels and Demons movie, and I'm pretty sure that I've probably read the Angels and Demons book. But like I said, I kind of wanted to go back and reread some of his earlier novels, just because I'm kind of in this space where it's like, oh yeah, I remember some being pretty awesome stories. And after having read Secret of Secrets, I just kind of want to dive back in to some of these awesome books of his earlier. So, An Ancient Secret Brotherhood, a devastating new weapon of destruction, and an unthinkable target. I'm really excited to read this one again. Although I've got a lot of books in the to be read pile before I even went to the Lakeland Book Crawl. The second book I picked up at Bookends was an interesting find. goes right into my love of history. First Daughters, Letters Between U.S. Presidents and Their Daughters. That's very interesting to me. I love reading history books, historical fiction, and what better way to get some insight into who these men who ran our country really were than how they interacted with their family and their children. And it's not, glancing through it quickly, there's letters from Theodore Roosevelt to his daughters, Woodrow Wilson, Herbert Hoover, William Taft. So it's not, modern presidents. It's John Adams, Ulysses Grant. So when writing letters was the main source of communication between parents and their children. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll be interesting to read through it and see who these men really were when it came to their families. On the back, it says, "This warm, inspiring, and historic compilation of personal correspondence draws upon the thousands of documents housed in the Library of Congress, our presidential libraries, and private collections." So it looks like a lot of research probably went into this one. And I am super excited to get my hands on that one and read through these correspondence between these great American leaders and their daughters. My second stop during the book crawl was No Covers. No Covers is a mobile, not-for-profit bookstore, and the books sit in this cute little trailer. And this is where I picked up book 5 of Percy Jackson and the Olympians for my daughter. She's so far read books 1 and 2, and truly I was on the hunt for books 3 for her. But when you come across one of the books in the series for a good price, I just wasn't going to leave it sitting there on the shelf. So she has book 5, but she's still waiting to read book 3 and 4. We're still on the hunt for those. Percy Jackson and the Olympians by Rick Riordan, book 5, is The Last Olympian. Sounds like another great adventure. I've only read the first novel so far. Book number 2 is in my to-be-read pile because my child insists upon it. So this one says, all year, the Half-Bloods had been preparing for battle against the Titans, knowing that their odds of victory are grim. Kronos' army is stronger than ever, and with every god and half-blood he recruits, the evil Titans' powers only grow. Sounds like an epic conclusion to what is shaping up to be a fun series. So I know my daughter looks forward to being able to read that, and I do too, though I'm a little more excited about some of the other books I picked up. Stop number 3 during the crawl was at Pressed Books and Coffee. They had a lot of great selections, some used books, some new books. However, nothing really jumped off the shelf at me while I was in Pressed Books, but I did take part and enjoyed their delicious book crawl latte that was a take on the classic dessert, Dirt and Worms. And I found these super fun gel pens. They call it the Bookworm Jotter gel pen set. And they say, get lost in the pages, books, coffee, quiet, and just one more chapter. Not that I needed more pens in my house, but I really felt like I needed some fun pens to do some writing and journaling with. And the coffee, the latte was super delicious. I hope they do it again next year or another one just like it. Stop number 4 during the crawl was Inklings. It's a nice store, lots of selection. And in there, I picked up this novel by Katherine Anderson called Sunkissed. This is a little bit of a departure from what I would normally pick up, but it just seemed interesting. Always read the back of the book, and then I flip through the pages a little bit when I pick out a book. So this one is about Samantha Harrigan, who goes to the local rodeo. She doesn't expect to wind up in jail, so it sounds like there's a little bit of a mystery with this one. Some romance and mystery. I don't know. As I read the back and I flipped through the pages, it just kind of spoke to me. Something that a little different from what I would normally pick up, which is good. Um, I guess I can overdo the historical fiction and the history little too much sometimes. At least that's what my family would say. So I've tried something a little different with this one, and I'm hopeful that it's going to be a good story. Stop number 5 on my book crawl journey was the Unbound Bookery. This was absolutely a book nerd, history geeks haven with all the leather bound vintage stories, the Jane Austen, original Jane Austen collection that she had. Super cool. So in here, I actually picked up Ernest Hemingway's Farewell to Arms. I've never read Ernest Hemingway before, and I figured it would be good to read one of his more popular stories. To me, it's historical, but I guess during the time that he was writing, it wasn't that historical. But I'm excited to read it, excited to see why Ernest Hemingway is one of the more popular authors of the past. So, yeah, it has a really nice dust cover on it. Just like everything did in that store. Everything was beautiful and vintage and just classic in the Unbound Bookery. So if that's the kind of books you're looking for, that's the place to go. But so yeah, just looking forward to reading this one. Booker Readerville was stop number 6 on the book crawl journey, and again, I took a departure from my typical books. I know one of my pastimes is watching Hallmark Christmas movies. And they've done some movies based on Debbie Macomber books, usually at Christmas time, but it's spring and going into summer. So I thought I would try one of her romance novels that seemed a little bit more in touch with spring and summer. So I picked up Rose Harbor in Bloom. Um, so it takes place in Cedar Cove at the Rose Harbor Inn. Jo Marie Rose has truly started to feel at home. Now it's springtime, and with the help of a local handyman, she is eager to finish the inn's new rose garden. And she's welcoming in her latest guests. I'm looking forward to reading this one too. But like I said, I think this one is going to be kind of like a Hallmark type story, which I'm excited for because I'm one of those geeks. Yes, I know Hallmark uses the same plot almost all the time, and they use mostly the same actors and actresses in their movies, but I keep watching them anyway because that's just kind of the geek I am. So I'm really excited to kind of read this one and see what it's all about. My last stop during the Lakeland book crawl was Crash Bookstore. And to be honest, I wasn't sure that I was going to find anything in there. It was a small selection, but as I perused the shelves and I found one in a cart, this book just started screaming at me that I needed to pick it up and I needed to bring it home. It is the epic story of the China-Burma India Theater in World War II, The Burma Road by Donovan Webster. And it's like this book was just literally screaming at me, pick me up, pick me up. And why? Because my grandfather was Army Air Force in World War II. He was a mechanic on the B-24s flying fuel in the China-Burma India Theater. So the moment I saw this book, I knew I had to pick it up so that I could read all about what happened in this area of World War II. It's so close to home, but yet I never really knew, don't really know. My grandfather never spoke a lot about it. War was not stories for women's ears, he would say. So it's going to be interesting to learn what these folks went through in this theater of the war. And I'm really excited to maybe piece some pieces together from the few things that I have heard in my childhood to what actually was going on. So super excited to dive into this one. So this past Saturday, which was actually the day to celebrate Independent Bookstore Day, my girls and I went to Winter Haven and checked out the brand new bookstore called Bookshelf. And I didn't. These books are all for them. They picked up a couple of books that they thought were going to be interesting for them to read. We wanted to try this Wings of Fire series. Looked interesting with the dragons. They like the How to Train Your Dragon movies. So I think she's going to enjoy this dragon series, Wings of Fire. Also picked up, now this is definitely something I'm interested in because Beauty and the Beast is my favorite Disney animated feature. And I think it was one of the better ones that they did when they decided to do some of the live action features. So it's kind of a standalone story in the midst of the main story called Lost in a Book. It looks rather interesting. We haven't gotten very far in it yet, just through the prologue. It's a big book for my 11-year-old, so we're trying to read it together. But it looks like Belle is getting sucked into a book that she finds in the library after the Beast gifts her his magnificent, ginormous library that every bookworm gets jealous of. And then Divine Arrivals by Rebecca Ross. We picked up. Looks like it's about some ancient gods, right up my teenager's alley with reading Percy Jackson and all that. So that should be an interesting read for her. She's excited to get it. Well, she's already started, but she's excited to keep on reading that book. So we have a lot of books to read, to get through, and looking forward to sharing them all with you as we get through them. you've enjoyed these videos, please like, subscribe. If your best friends are looking for some new books to read, share with them, check it out. Thanks for watching and happy reading.